It's a good morning to you. Welcome to Asake Online. My name is Zenzele Ndebele, and this is the Breakfast Club. Today in our program, we'll be talking about political violence. Zimbabwe has always been a very violent country, especially when it comes to issues of elections. It is very interesting or sad or funny that whenever there are no elections, we are such a peaceful country. We relate, we even welcome our guests, and we're very peaceful, and we are nice to visit us. But whenever elections are announced, seems like something really gets into us, and we start to be very violent. And we have had so many episodes of violence, pre-independence, during the independence, after the independence. You talk about Kukuraundi, 2000, and going up to recent. We have always had episodes of violence. And today in my program, I'll be talking to a gentleman called Cradle Dube, who was a victim of violence during the MDC days, and he will tell us, what happened to him. And this will be around 2008, 2002, at the peak of the political violence. So he is going to share with us his story, and I hope that we will learn something out of it. But I know there are so many other people who were victims like him. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
So tell me, what's your story? What happened?
I was kidnapped in 2002 on an operation that was run by the Zimbabwe National Army, the Zimbabwe Republic Police, the CIO, the Zimbabwe War Veterans, the militia, otherwise called the Border Guards, or the ZANU-PF youths. All the organs that could protect me were involved in that operation. Their accusation was that I am MDC. I had a close friend whom we kidnapped together. He came from Cholocho at Espongweni. Unfortunately, he's late now.
What was his name?
His name was Zenzele Ndebele. He was my junior. He was a district security officer for MDC. What hurts me most, or make me shed tears, is that I witnessed him being butchered alive.
So you talk about, you make allegations that there were, all the security forces. What makes you say they were there?
They told me that there was no way I could report. Before they could do their operations, they introduced themselves, saying, these delegations here, they represent the war veterans, and these are from the ZRP, and these are from the CIO, and these are from the CIDs. Just as you can see, the border guards, you could identify them by their uniform and their rough behavior and singing of songs. And they told me there's no way I could report the matter they were doing.
Do you remember any names from the people who were there?
I remember a lot of names. There was a war veteran who's well known in Kai. He's called Kiwa. He was involved in most of the killings and the operations. There was also another gentleman who was called Revolution. He was also involved in the operations. Some of them I remember. There was Mutero, who was once the head of the police at Cholocho. He was also on those grounds. I remember there was a close friend of my uncle. I know him from Cholocho. He was also a policeman. His name, they used to call him Dewa. He was also involved in the operations. There was also a youth I know who was called Kankuni. He was also involved in those operations, and a lot more.
Yes, so with the day you were kidnapped, what happened? Where were you taken to?
I migrated from Cholocho because it had turned violent. So I went to seek refuge through the help of MDC. I was given an office at Wange, which was a peaceful zone because it was run by the Anglo-American company. So it was a free place for any political company, for any political party. So it happened one day that I decided to venture to Bulawayo to try and source some of the things that I needed. I boarded a Kukurakurerwa bus. In that bus, when you got to Lupane, there was a roadblock which was being run by this militia. They got on board of the bus, started interviewing everybody why he was heading to town, why he was selling the country, accusing everybody. So it was just a matter of whereby you could defend yourself, answer the question, then they pass by. As they were interviewing the people in the bus, I realized there was Tembeni Ndebele, who is late now, whom they killed. So when they got to the back city, that's where Tembeni was. During that interrogation, they accused him of being MTC like everybody else, but unfortunately, he failed to deny his being MTC. He told them it was his right for him to be MTC and it was his choice. So when they searched his satchel, they discovered that he had some MTC vouchers, MTC papers, and a few US dollars. They started beating him up and asked him to pinpoint who was in his company. And unfortunately, he told them I was also part of the office. So the entire bus was also all accused of being MTC. And the bus was ordered to be driven up to Nkai, whereby I really don't know what happened to other passengers. But we were told that no one was going to survive because we had reached the ground whereby we are supposed to not live anymore because the things that were taking place, they didn't want any witness. But all I remember is that all I being kidnapped.
So when you were from Nkai, where did you go?
We got to Nkai Center. There is a Nkai community hall where we spent about 2 days there. We were being interrogated, beaten, where they took everything that was in our possession, including what they stripped us even our pens, took our banking cards. They beat us to an extent whereby we gave them our PIN numbers. Then after a few days, there was a team that came that drove us to a place near Lukona Primary School in the Dipankai, along a river I heard them call Tame River. It was the biggest camp I've ever seen, which was run by the militia and the ZANU-PF or ZANU-PF hooligans. In that camp, we're being tortured almost daily. We're being raped by their female colleagues. We're being tortured every day. We're being made to be taxis. Some of the other humans that were accused of being MDC, they were put in some 50 kg containers and were forced to carry them and throw them in some deep tanks. Some were thrown inside in some deeper old mine shafts. Some were even thrown in dams. You could feel death close by to you. I remember I was beaten under my foot. I was beaten on my buttocks. I couldn't even walk. I could barely walk. I remember when we even asked for water, they could give us their urine and forced to drink it. I remember them giving us their dirty water they used for washing when we asked for water. They fed us with the dirty food they threw from the bin. For the 2 months, I remember well, they dug a pit where they forced me to live with the dead corpse of my friend. They could force me to greet him every day and ask him why he was MDC. There were a lot of people that I witnessed their death. Some were being stoned to death. Depending on how, there was a judge who was a war veteran who could say, you can stone this gentleman, slaughter this gentleman.
So who was this war veteran? Who was the judge?
The other one I've forgotten, but the other one, he was Revolution. He was called Revolution. He was in charge of judging whether you should be shot, you should be killed, how you should die, whether you should be hanged. He was holding all those powers.
So you talk about many people being killed, many people being, what would you say is the number? And do you remember the names of those people? Because someone can say, no, where's Kulumela? No, where is the evidence? Would we go to families and people say, this person disappeared?
My greatest witness is Zenzele Ndebele, who was slaughtered alive. From the day he was kidnapped, his parents are still crying. They are still looking for him. I worked with a company, or should I say an NGO called Amani Trust over the years, whereby by then we had all the human remains on the ground before they could cover up. We went into the deeper jungles of Nkai where I was stationed. We went to an extent of exhuming some of the skeletons. Unfortunately, Amani Trust was closed because of those accusations. But in their archives, we have some of the skeletons that we recovered. And Tembene's parents are still crying even now. Even his daughters are still crying for the death of their father. We also have another living witness. There are only 2 living witnesses that saw this saga take place. I hope this gentleman is still alive. He was a chairman of MDC in Lukona district in Nkai. His name was called Ndebele. He was also part of the people who were kidnapped. He suffered the way I did. He was also tortured and beaten the way I was. I remember we are the only 2 survivors.
So how did you come out? How did you finally? How were you finally released?
You know, it's complicated because I really can't really understand or explain what took place. But I wasn't released. It was just the 2 of us who were left. We could hear them sing songs of rejoicing, saying they've won rigging the election, the presidential ones. So they felt they had power in their hands. They felt we're nothing to them because there's nothing we could do to them.
So this was after how many months?
It was after 2 months.
Of you being there?
Yes, but however, we could hear a burning debate whether they should let us go or they should kill us. So they decided to kill us and asked us to write letters to our families and tell them why we sold the country and asked them to forgive us because we did wrong to ZANU-PF. So this thing that took place even today is really unexplainable because they used to put handcuffs on my hands and the other part on my foot, including for Ndebele. The very day they have told us that they were going to slaughter us, it was during the night. I remember I was praying for my death, that if only they could shoot me instead of being thrown in a dam. I don't really know what happened, but all I remember is that I saw a very, very, very bright big light, as if I was in a dream, hanging above the sky. As I was afraid, wondering what was happening in such a darkness where I could see light behind the cloth which was used as my blindfolder, I could see through that. As I was wondering what was taking place, I heard my other colleague, Ndebele, praying. He was praying a funny prayer, asking God that after these gentlemen get to finish killing us, they also have to witness their key children and their families die. I loved saying, what sort of a prayer is this? Then I had to wonder, after joining in a short prayer, I was afraid too. I didn't know what was taking place. I had to pray a short prayer. After doing my short prayer, I just began asking myself, where are these gentlemen? When I looked on my left-hand side, it's unbelievable. I could see some of them were resting, just seated. Some of them were in blood. They looked hurt. When I drew closer, I helped those that I could to sit well. When I asked them, they told me a different story from what I saw. They say they saw something that looked like an angel, and it pushed them, and they got hurt through their spears and the weapons that were carrying.
So was this in a dream or it was now real?
To me, it looked real. But today I can't really explain what really happened, but that's how I began to get free. So from that point, we spent 2 days in the jungle singing. Those that believed in God, they sang songs of praise to God.
You and the guys who had kidnapped you?
Yes, we and the guys who had kidnapped us. On the third day, we had a team that made a follow-up to see that the guys that went on a mission to fulfill what they were supposed to do to kill us, why are they not back? They saw them in bloodstains and thought they were attacked by the MTC youth, but they explained the tragedy to them, and I could hear them being afraid. I heard them discussing that it means one of these guys have got some supernatural powers. So for us to keep the evidence, we have to separate these guys and find who has the power. Then we kill the other. Then we'll see what will happen with the other. So we were separated. I was taken to a dry riverbed and began to be tortured again. On the third day, I was taken on the back of a truck and taken to another deeper jungle. That's where I was freed, but beaten and told never ever to talk about this thing if I still need my life, or if ever I am to live to see my children live again. They left me in the jungle. In that jungle, when I woke up in the morning, I saw a big dam. I saw it was written something like Wubi Range and Game Park. I realized it was some sort of a mini range. That's where I had to seek my way to Bulawayo from there.
And how was Newman released?
Newman tells me that he was taken, his hands were tied with a rope, and he was pulled from the behind of a car. Unfortunately, he tells me he was lucky enough that the rope broke up a few kilometers, it was 1 or 2 kilometers. Then it was cut. Then he had to crawl all the night and the morning to his homestead, where he found that also his wife was beaten and she is no longer as human as she is, because she has a broken leg and a broken hand. She could no longer do the chores any other African woman can do.
So have you ever met some of the people who tortured you?
I have seen some in town and they failed to realize who I was, because I spent most of my time admitted in hospitals. I spent most of my time living in some MTC safe houses whereby I had to seek for my safety.
So you've never confronted them?
I remember at one time, Abednego Bebe, who was the MP for Ngai, he approached me and told me the rule of law was now working in Zimbabwe under law and order. So he told me to trust him and trust the law. So he told me that it was wise that we go to Central Police Station and open the docket so that the culprits who did whatever they did in the jungle, they're going to be arrested. And it was the order from Robert Gabriel Mugabe, who was the president. So we went to Central Police and we opened the docket. And I wrote everything I know, including the names, on my fresh brains. The following week, I was arrested and accused of telling lies and accusing the top ruling party for killing people.
Thank you very much for sharing the story with us. And we hope that you eventually find peace, but more importantly, find help.
Thank you.
Thanks.